Well, yeah, it's lovely to be here this evening. Thank you all for coming on such a nice, sunny, warm evening. Easter Monday as well, the day after Easter Sunday, which of course we all know brings with it some Easter eggs. And I don't want to frighten any of you before we even get started on this talk about dentistry, because I know there are a lot of people who aren't wild about dentists and dentistry. And yeah, I don't want to frighten you, but you're very close to the source of all evil in this room, of course. And I almost went round, but John wouldn't let me. I almost went round at the beginning of the evening and cleared the tables of the source of all evil, which of course you know as sugar. Yes, it's not really, but anyway, we'll talk about why it is a bit controversial later. So, we've got some Easter eggs at the front. I don't think that's not for throwing. You don't get rotten tomatoes when you're a dentist and you talk, you get things like, yeah, big hard Easter eggs. So we're going to talk tonight about dentistry without drills, and I think it's a subject that people are usually quite fascinated by when I talk about it, when people ask what I do. They're never fascinated by the fact I'm a dentist. I usually find that the next part of the conversation is very difficult, some terrible experience they've had. So that's normally what happens when I say I'm a dentist, but then I usually go on to say, but I'm not a real dentist, I'm a children's dentist. And then you sort of get the, then other people think that's okay, but actually, as some of the audience will know, it's like being a dentist ninja. It really is. Being a children's dentist is just like being a dentist ninja. Because you're trying to do the hardest thing in the world in the smallest mouth that's probably ever existed to somebody who probably doesn't really want to be there. So it's quite tricky. And this is really why we've come around to the idea of looking at what we can do that doesn't involve drills, doesn't involve injections, doesn't involve drills, and that's what I'm going to talk to you tonight. So just to throw the floor open for a minute or two, can I ask if anybody, just by any chance, just think back, cast back in your memories, really deep in here, has anybody in this room ever undergone dental treatment? Anybody at all? Quite a few then. Quite a few. Okay, thank you. And just to ask you guys, how did you feel about that? Does anybody feel brave enough to share? Now, we don't want a whole unburdening and psychological kind of taking back thing here, but does anybody want to tell me what they thought about that, or tell the room how it felt? What was the experience like?
I really like going to the dentist because I find it quite relaxing. I've got a very good dentist, and even the injection doesn't hurt very much, but by the time that's over, it just feels like having your hair washed or something.
There you are. Is that everyone's experience? I got the biggest laugh so far. I understand what you mean. I understand what you mean. But generally, most people a little bit less than relaxed when they're there. Would that be fair to say? Yeah? Okay. And it's understandable because you are in a very vulnerable position. You're lying back, you have somebody towering over you. Usually, if you're like me, it'll be somebody who's taller than you. And they are doing something to you that you don't know because you can't see, and even if it's explained to you with words, it can be very, very difficult to really understand and appreciate what's going on in there. And you usually don't feel terribly great. Numbness isn't a good feeling, even if your dentist can make you feel numb without any discomfort at all, which some of us can do, me included, I just want to say that. It's still a funny feeling, and it's weird, and it's difficult. Now, if you think that, everyone in this room, I presume, is over sort of 16. We all kind of over 16. And this vast experience that we've had in our lifetimes, and we think back to what it was like when we were maybe 3 or 4 or 5. We all were at one stage in the past. That 3 or 4 or 5-year-old having to undergo that same experience of having dental treatment, they have very limited understanding of what it's like. They've got not as much comprehension about things that they've never experienced before. They don't know what numbness means when you try and describe that. They don't like feeling in a vulnerable position. They like to have choice. They're usually pretty wriggly. And it can be generally a very stressful experience for everybody involved to try and deliver dentistry to children. So what's actually going on? Why do we need to do this in the first place? Well, we've talked a little bit about sugar, and I've joked as it's being the root of all evil, but the diabetologists and the cardiologists and the nutritionists will tell you more about that even than I will, because I think that we have to have an idea of why you get tooth decay and what you can do to prevent it. to try and understand why we sometimes don't get it prevented. So tooth decay is caused by plaque. You've probably all heard that word. It's a word that dentists like to use when they scrape stuff off your teeth and hold it up in front of you and show you that you haven't managed to clean maybe as well as they would have liked. And plaque is this amazing thing. It is absolutely amazing. It isn't just this thick, white, sticky film that you can see on your teeth, or you can't, because it's incredibly cunning as well. It camouflages itself so you don't see it. Plaque is, the technical word would be biofilm, which is probably, hopefully, the only technical word I'm really going to use tonight. But it is a biofilm. It's a very cunning mixture of different biological organisms that function together. And the way I like to describe it to people is that it's like a city. The biofilm that's on your teeth is like a city of slime, made up of lots of different kinds of bacteria, and sometimes some little funguses and things are in there, polymers and other kind of different chemicals that the bacteria produce to glue themselves together to make them stick onto your teeth, because they want to survive and live there. It's a little bit like Dundee. We're in Dundee. We want to be here. We don't want to be in the Caribbean. We're happy in Dundee. We don't mind the weather. But it's the same idea. We're living in a city made up of lots of different people who all have different roles in the city. Some of them work in shops, some of them work in the dental school, some of them work in hospitals, some work as delivery, some work in the sewage systems. And the whole point of this analogy is that within the biofilm, the bacteria all have different functions as well, and they rely on one another in order to survive, a bit like in Dundee. So if in Dundee we stop the supply lorries coming in with all the food, so we block the roads, imagine we just get a big dome and we place it right over Dundee. No lorries, no cars, no trains, nothing can get into the city or out of the city. So we'd be fine for a while because Tesco's is well stocked. We'd manage, we'd eventually empty the shelves. You'd resort to eating those things like the canned asparagus that you always end up with in the back of your cupboard. Eventually everything would go. We'd run out of food. There'd be nothing left. And if we blocked off the sewage system as well, it would get pretty rank. Okay, nothing would really work the way we're used to. So even simple measures like stopping things coming in and going out would cause the city to grind to a halt, and eventually it would become a bit of a disaster. I'm not saying we'd resort to cannibalism, but you never know. So if we think about the biofilm in the same way, and we get this biofilm and we seal it off away from everything so that it can no longer get access to sugar, the root of all evil as we will now forever call it, and can't get rid of the waste products, this plaque biofilm, which the thick, white, sticky stuff, is actually got roads and pores and channels in it so that the sugar can dissolve in and sink down to the bottom so that all the nutrients or all the waste products of the bacteria can dissolve out and they can get rid of it so they don't get all gummed up. If we stop that happening, then we stop the city of slime surviving. And that's what I'm going to tell you about later. At the moment though, to explain to you how you actually get from that biofilm, the city of slime, to having tooth decay, we have to go one step further. So when we have the sewage in Dundee, we get rid of it all because we don't need it. The bacteria have cunningly evolved in this plaque to be able to create their own micro niche, their own little home, their own little holiday home in fact. So when they eat sugar and they produce their waste products, the main waste product is an acid, or various different acids. Those acids are able to dissolve away the enamel in your teeth, and that's what makes holes. It's as simple as that. It's the acid from the bacteria. So when I'm talking to little kids, especially boys, they love it if you tell them that when the bacteria eat the sugar on their teeth and they poo out acid, then that's what's going to do it. And that usually starts most people brushing, not all of them, but sometimes that's enough. But essentially it's that acid dissolving away. It's a little bit like the Giant's Causeway. The Giant's Causeway has got big rock shapes, rock formations that are partially dissolved away, which leave it in a certain shape. And oddly enough, those shapes are very, very similar on a massively giant scale to the little prisms that we have in our teeth that are made up of crystals. And it's those crystals that dissolve away. So if you think about the Giant Causeway, and you have those big rock formations, the stacks and things that are, I think they're hexagonal or octagonal, I'm not sure. That's what happens when the acid dissolves away bits of your teeth. On a very, very small microscopic scale, part of those crystals disappear and you get left with other little bits sticking up. Now, unfortunately, in our mouth, when those little bits of crystals are left, and we eat something, or we grind our teeth, or we brush, or we do something, they get snapped off. So you end up with the holes getting bigger and bigger, the tooth gets weaker. The plaque bacteria, biofilm, loves that, because not only now is it having to disguise itself sitting on top of your teeth, it's able to go into the holes where your toothbrush can't get at, where your tongue can't wash it off, your saliva can't get access to it, and it has created Biofilm Hawaii. It's so happy in there. It can lie there forever, it can create the amount of acid that's ridiculous, and then the whole thing takes on a life of its own and it fuels itself. So once you get that hole, there's a big problem. Everything progresses much, much more quickly, and you end up with this whole acid going inside your tooth, causing you tooth pain. You get toothache, pain, infection. You really need to get something done about it. So that's how the whole thing kind of happens. And if only we could get people to brush their teeth and remove that biofilm twice a day, every day, none of that would matter. It wouldn't take place. Because when you remove it, it takes so long for that acid to build up to a level to cause tooth decay that the removal would stop the whole process. Teeth aren't straight, they're difficult to clean, people don't do it, a million reasons why it never happens. But if we can get people to brush, we can prevent tooth decay. It is entirely preventable. Fluoride in toothpaste helps because the fluoride molecules make the tooth actually stronger than the original chemical is in the crystals. So we like people to brush with fluoridated toothpaste. Why then do we have such a problem with children's tooth decay? I don't know if you know, but in Scotland we used to have the worst figures in Europe for dental decay, which isn't something that we should be proud of, but was always held up by my dental public health consultants as a badge of honour. Fortunately, in Scotland, we've now actually reduced our tooth decay in children dramatically. I don't know if anybody knows how we've gone about doing that. Has anybody ever heard of Child Smile or any of the projects? Yeah. So we've got projects that are funded by the government that take place in schools for children to brush their teeth. And we have people who go around schools basically plopping bits of fluoride on 5-year-olds' teeth, 3, 4 and 5-year-olds, to try and stop this tooth decay and try and build up the teeth, make them stronger. So that's all about trying to form habits and trying to prevent things. We've gone from 2/3 of 5-year-olds, so if you think of the 5-year-olds are the ones that are kind of about maybe that height, with the big rucksacks on their back when they go to school that almost touch the ground when they're trailing along, you know, they just look hilarious. So if you take a class of 5-year-olds, so primary ones, who go in, first day in school, brand new, 14th of August or whatever the date is around the middle of August, sitting in their seats, bright shiny uniforms, massive school bags with nothing in them apart from a pencil case, sitting there in that class of 30 children in Scotland today, even having reduced tooth decay from 2/3 of children at that age having tooth decay to 1/3 of children having tooth decay through these big brushing programs, even now, 1/3 of those children will have visible holes in their teeth when you just open their mouth and look. So I brought you something to help you see what that looks like. If it's going really bad, a prop might help. So I'll pass them around. If I start with you, sir. You can see the brown holes in the teeth here, and we'll start with that. You can pass them round and have a look. So that's just children who open their mouth, you can see decay. So 1/3 of them, even now, with these big programs of brushing and fluoride, will still have tooth decay. What's even worse though, is that of those children in that class of 30, one of them, before they even get to the classroom and sit in those chairs, will already have had a general anaesthetic at Nine Wells, or whichever hospital, depending on where in Scotland you are, of course. In Dundee, they'll have been to Nine Wells, have had a general anaesthetic, and have had every decayed tooth that they have extracted. One child in every single classroom on average. Now that average sounds bad enough, but actually the disease is skewed towards the poorer children. We know that there's a linear relationship, so the poorer you are, the more tooth decay you have, especially in children. It's a very, very close relationship. And we can talk about why that might be later on. There's a number of different reasons. But this means that for me as a children's dentist, the public health dentists haven't got it sorted. They haven't smashed it on the head. There's still an enormous problem. I've still got the 3, 4, 5-year-olds that I don't want to go to Nine Wells to have a general anaesthetic because hitting them with that chemical mallet isn't a good thing. It doesn't make them feel great. They have a bad memory of dentistry, usually for the rest of their lives, and it's got knock-on side effects. A general anaesthetic in a tiny child, we know, has got some ongoing problems with in terms of how the brain develops and things. We're lucky with dental anaesthetics, they're very short, but nevertheless it's not a great thing to do to a child. So how am I, as a paediatric dentist, going to stop that from being necessary? Well, we fill the teeth, we fill those brown holes that we see. But we've talked already about how difficult that is. And if I add to that by explaining to you, well, maybe I'll ask you actually, how much do you think a dentist gets paid for doing a filling in, say, an adult, first of all? How much? Do you give any idea? Because you probably pay a part of the fee when you go to get your NHS treatment. So on the National Health Service, how much does a dentist get paid for doing a filling? Ballpark, go on.
£40.
£40, good answer. Anybody else?
10.
£10, okay. Anybody else? Anyone hazard another guess?
60.
60. It's actually £25. So, a little bit higher, a little bit lower than that. So, £25. And that's probably going to take about, well, if you're on the National Health Service and you work in a dental practice, you need to earn about 100 and, I don't know what the exact figure is now, but it's about £140 an hour in order to be able to keep your surgery turnover, pay your nurse, pay your rent, pay your chairs, pay your materials, pay the lab bills that you get. So it's quite a big ask to be doing fillings for that amount. Now, remember the 5-year-old, wriggly, small mouth, small teeth, dental ninja. How much do you think a dentist gets paid for doing a filling on a child's tooth?
10.
£10 again, we're going for 10 again.
5.
5, very close, £5.85. So, massively different, kind of, whole different scene. Much more difficult, and there's not a dentist in the country that will tell you it's not more difficult. Much less lucrative, I suppose you should say. So we have got a problem with trying to work around the system we have, as well as work with the children who don't particularly find it as lovely as you do to have their dental treatment. So it's difficult. So what we did was, a number of years ago, we discovered there was a dentist in Scotland who was placing little shiny crowns on children's teeth. And we know, as well as doing fillings, that you can put crowns on teeth. Crowns are well known for being a fantastic solution to problems with teeth, depending on what's gone wrong. And in adults, what we do with your teeth, we usually take a mould of we trim your tooth down, take a mould, send it to a laboratory and get you back either a gold crown or a white crown, depending on what your preference is. And that all works very well. In children we have crowns, but they're actually already made. They're little pre-formed shiny crowns. And what we do is we freeze up the tooth again, we trim it down, and we push the crown on. Very difficult to do, actually more difficult to do than a filling. So not a lot of people do them, because it takes a lot of trimming and you've really got to be careful. You've got a wriggly child, big lips, big tongue, everything going on in there, and a little drill going around it, and a lot of RPMs, we won't talk about how many. So, because it might scare you, you might never go back to the dentist again. It's fine, they're very good, dental ninja, remember. So, we've got this business of crowns that we can put in children's teeth, but we knew that up and down the country in the UK nobody does them. Now they do a lot of them in America. They do a lot of them in America because the vast majority of children in America are treated under general anaesthetic. They put the children to sleep. I don't think it actually takes a paediatric dentist to do that. It actually just takes any dentist to be able to treat a child who's asleep. The paediatric dentist is the one who can do it when they're awake. But anyway, in America, the whole thing is driven by children being sedated or being under anaesthetic in order to provide dental treatment. But in the UK it wasn't. But we discovered that up in the north of Scotland, when we did an audit around Scotland, there was one dentist who was placing crowns, Dr. Norna Hall. And we went to see her to say, you know, how on earth are you placing all these crowns on children when we know other general practitioners aren't doing it? We were doing quite a lot of them in the dental school, but people generally come to us expecting to have a little bit more done. They've been referred, it's special, it's different, you have to, you know. But for general practitioners, nobody was doing them. I think something like 48 were fitted in 1 year in Scotland. So we spoke to Norna and we said, you know, what on earth's happening? And she said, well look, I'm maybe not your average general practitioner because I used to work in the army. I used to treat army children who are kind of used to being disciplined and told what to do with things. And I got very used to doing these crowns. I then worked down south in Sussex. And she told us about her practice, which was in a very low need, very affluent area where parents expected very high-end treatment. So again, she fitted a lot of crowns down there. She was very used to doing it. She then moved up round about Aberdeenshire and discovered that everything had flipped. She was in a very high need, low expectation area where people had never heard of crowns for children's teeth. She was fitting a lot of fillings, placing a lot of fillings, and they weren't doing terribly well, so she wanted to go back to using the crowns that snapped over the teeth and really fixed them. So with this population of children that she had with a lot of decay, she began cutting corners, basically. So she began taking out less decay, she began trimming the teeth down a little bit less in order to put the crowns on, and she found they were still working. She is an immensely admirable individual. She audited all her own data and compared it to her data that she had before. And she found that yes, the crowns, even when she didn't remove the decay, even when she didn't trim the teeth, worked very, very well. So when we went to visit her, she showed us this audit data, and we were horrified, absolutely horrified, because 15 years ago, the way you treat decay was you cut it all out as if it was gangrene, and then you put a filling in or you put the crown on, whichever you're going to do. But you do not leave decay behind. So we began to look a little bit more into this, and we discovered that there was actually quite a body of research that showed that you could leave decay behind. And you know what I'm going to tell you is that it's about the biofilm. It's about sealing the biofilm in, about stopping it getting access to nutrients, to oxygen. I mean, imagine how quickly we'd die if we dropped that dome over Dundee and there was no oxygen getting in and out. It wouldn't be time to resort to cannibalism. So the idea behind the crowns that Norna was doing was to seal everything in and stop the progression of the decay in that way. And she also discovered you don't need to trim the teeth down. You can get these special little crowns made by a company that you just push on and they snap over the teeth. So great. I've got another prop for you that I'll send round. Now these teeth have got numbers on them. I'm going to give you, that one's got a 3 and a 4, and this one's got a 1 and a 2. These are children's teeth, models of children. They're not real children's teeth. They're not real children. Don't panic, okay? These are plastic. It's fine. Plastic and rubber. But what I've also got here are some of the little crowns. They're all clean, sterilised. These are the ones we use with the students. All fine. So, if I pass these round, now if you match the crown to the tooth, you'll be able to push it on yourself, which is exactly what we do with the children's teeth. And it's no different, it's actually no different at all. There's a 4, so wherever the model's gone, that will go on a number 4 tooth. You have to give it quite a hoink to get it out. There's a number 2, so that will go on the tooth that's got a number 2. And this one, there's number 3 if you want the number 3 one as well. Just push it on. You do have to work hard to get it back off, by the way. And I've got a number 1 somewhere, doesn't really matter.
You should have given us one each and made it a test.
I should have. That's what I do with students. I think that's the number 1 if you want the number 1. So you put what you have to do is be very careful to get the side, just check the microphone up again, get the side that's got the writing on it and put that towards the outside of the mouth and then just push it on. Literally just match the tooth up and push it on. It's so easy, so easy. So we did a lot of research on this. How well does it work? We ran a big randomised control trial around Dundee, and Dundee is a fabulous area if you want to do any dental research, or any research actually, because it's so wonderful that nobody moves away, or hardly anybody moves away. We have got one of the most static populations in the UK. Who would go? Who would leave? You know, who would want to go to Hawaii or the Caribbean or anything? Me. But we have got a great population, and we had fantastic dentists who said, you know, I'm aware that we have a problem with children's teeth. I really want to try and do something to sort it. I'll take part in that weird sounding research about seal and decaying. And I do think it was very brave of them at that time to do that. So we had wonderful parents who signed up to take part in this trial, and wonderful children. We ran this trial, and we followed the children up for 5 years, which is remarkable in any dental trial. And we followed them actually up later until the teeth had fallen out, and we published all that work. What we found was that if the children had a filling placed by their dentist in a tooth with a hole, it was likely to fail, it's likely to fall out within 5 years in 50% of the cases. So they had to have the filling replaced and again and again. And that's not surprising because there's a very wet mouth with lots of saliva. The materials don't like sticking in wet mouths. They're small. It's difficult to drill it as much as you want and all these things. So that's not surprising. What was surprising though, and we'd expected that the crowns would do as well as the fillings. We had, from the research we'd done in the literature and what other people had done, we thought, well, they should do as well, empirically, it should work. We found that after 5 years, we had a 93% success rate with the crowns. Once they went on, that was it. Virtually, that was it. So amazing. We worked out from the data that we had probably avoided, of that group of 142 children that took part in the trial, based on matched children with decay, that we probably avoided about 4 or 5 of them going for a general anaesthetic, because most of those children had a lot of decay. So that was great. That was absolutely fantastic. We then went on and did some work in Germany and in Lithuania. We've got some colleagues in America and in Brazil who are running similar trials with children in different settings and tweaking things a little bit to see how they get on. And they're finding exactly the same thing. It works. Sealing the biofilm under something that is well sealed really does stop it from progressing. So, of course, I was asked to talk to you about, well, what does that mean for adults' teeth, the rest of us in the population? Well, it's maybe not quite so straightforward, unfortunately. It's not what you want to hear, I know, I'm sorry. But sticking these little crowns that you've seen over children's teeth, simply pushing them on, makes the bite a little bit high, but children are incredibly resilient and they're growing. So we've found, doing work with other people over time, that the bite resolves. The bite just closes down and the teeth jiggle about a little bit because they're all growing in and out anyway. And everything begins to settle. They don't get bothered by it. I find that if I place now that I don't treat grown-ups, but when I placed a filling in somebody's mouth, and maybe some of you have experienced this as well, if you have a filling, it's a little bit too high. Has anybody ever gone out to the dentist and discovered that the numbness worn off, your filling's a bit too high? What does it feel like?
It's sore after 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's dreadful, it's sore, it's not nice, is it? Yet these kids are having these little crowns shoved on and they never complain. They don't. Our study was the first study ever, believe it or not, to measure what children thought of having dental treatment. So we asked them after they'd had their filling, what did they think? They had to measure it on one of those wee smiley faces. And when they had their crown done, because each child, one had a filling and one had a crown, each child had a filling on one side and a crown on the other. So they'd experienced both. And we randomised the order that they had them in, so they didn't prefer the first one more, or the second one more, because they got used to it. But all of them vastly preferred the crown to the filling, even though it opened their bite and they had it chomping on it for a few days. Didn't seem to bother them. And I think it is down to the elasticity of the tissues in the little people, their growth, their accommodation, and maybe the fact that they were glad they didn't have an injection. I don't know. But that, I think, was very surprising. In adults, we know we have much less tolerance. So what we do in adults is we do try and seal in decay. We do try and remove much less of it because then we destroy less of your tooth as a dentist. That's maybe not the right way to put it, but whenever we have to drill out that decay, we have to drill away some tooth as well because it's the tooth that's been infected. The decay makes the hole. The decay's in there. So if we reduce the amount we drill away and we try and seal some of the decay in, we've got an advantage. But we're still doing some drilling, we're still having to numb the tooth to stop it feeling sore. There are some other things that we've started doing now, where we put sealants over tooth, little fissure sealants that you maybe heard of in children again, that we place over their back teeth to stop them getting decay. We now put over very early decay on the surface of teeth in children and adults. Again, sealing that biofilm in when it's in an early stage. That has to be before you've got a hole though, because the material is very weak. It's not like a big filling material or a stainless steel crown like you see over there. It's a very weak material, so it has to be resting on tooth. In fact, if you make a fissure sealant in your hand, and we get the students to do this, you can snap it. So it won't withstand much force, that particular material. Having said all of that, people are working on trying to find new ways of making filling materials that we can put over holes or not have to drill more away, or little crowns that we can stick on, little patches, little materials that infiltrate into the decay and stop it progressing, and using all this information. But we haven't quite got 100% of the way there yet. Whereas I think for children, we have this thing that we call child-friendly dentistry that involves putting the crowns on the teeth, putting sealants on teeth, only removing a little bit of decay if we've got to remove any, sometimes using different fluoridated compounds to try and remineralise, put those crystals back in and fluoride back in, where we've just got very early stage decay, and so that it doesn't go to the big hole stages. But for adults, we're still working on it, I think, it's fair to say.